So, today has been an exceptional day, but this has been one of the epic proportion type of moments. I've been in this for 20 plus years, and you and I have never met. And I'm sitting here with Julie Tyler, and the Farrell and Powell Award is such an emotional achievement. And I'm curious about how that feels for you, because you could see how much it matters to the folks here.
I will tell you, it's very emotional for me. Well, first of all, to be acknowledged by your peers to be a leader is, it's a positive thing. But when I found out that it was an award that was named after Farrell and Powell, it meant even more to me. And let me tell you why. When I was earlier, I guess mid-career, I was a vice president at the time, and Farrell was like the CEO of Eval, and she was the GM at that time for the MatriClip program. I had the opportunity to be on the same team, and I noticed how she conducted herself. I noticed her leadership, and I was at a point where I was searching for, how do I get to that level? What are the things I need to do? And she was someone that was an example to aspire to. One, she was wicked smart. She was incredibly collaborative. People wanted to be a part of her team. She had this cool swagger about herself, right? But the thing that I really appreciated the most was her authenticity, but her passion for the patient was what drew me to her. And so to be able to, years later, to be acknowledged and recognized for leadership in her name was quite meaningful, because she helped in some way to shape how I was able to navigate my career and get me comfortable in my own skin with my leadership. So I didn't have to play a role of a leader. I just said, you know what, Julie, you're enough. Just be authentic in who you are. And I learned that in part from Farrell.
I mean, that's a life is a circle kind of moment. I mean, I didn't realize that you had worked with her. I mean, your life story is extraordinary, and the way you tell it is so authentic. You seem to be unabashed about it. This is me, and I hope you like it, but if you don't, that's okay too. So let's talk a bit about that. I mean, your rise from HBCU and then, I mean, to work your way up through Abbott like you did is extraordinary. So I'm curious, what was you envisioning when you came out of Jackson State? Did you expect to go to a big company like this? Is this kind of what your goal was?
Actually, no. So I have an interesting background. So when you take a look at my background, I went to graduate school in broadcast management. So when I was
Really?
at Jackson State, I did broadcasting. I did television, I did radio. So I thought that I wanted to be the president of NBC. So I went to SMU and got a degree where you spend half your time in the business school, half your time in the broadcasting school. And so I was recruited by business companies. I was recruited by media companies out of graduate school. SMU was not cheap, and so I decided to go into banking at the time. And so I came out of SMU and went into banking, specifically into mortgage banking at the time. And I realized probably after a few years it was not something that I was interested in. And I had friends that were in sales, and I said, you know what, let me give it a go. And I started with Abbott as a sales representative and absolutely loved it in the Houston Med Center. And I was surprised that they were paying me, because I felt like I was just having a good time. I was having fun. And I think I was so young that I was fearless. And I would go in and I would just, if I got a no, I thought a no was good, because a no was something that I could deal with. When people just like, oh yeah, thank you, I don't have anything, I can't do anything with that if that's an objection. But a no, I can then dig into why is there a no, and I can get to possibly a yes. And that's how I started my career, with every intention of somehow looping back into the broadcasting space. And 28 years later, I'm still with Abbott, and I'm glad I am.
It's funny, my mom had given me that advice when I first went away to school. Sometimes the best class you take is the one that tells you don't want to be that. And so it's interesting. So you tried the banking route, and you were able to cross it off your list. Now you never have to look back and wonder if that was for you.
Have no what ifs. There are no what ifs, because I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. It didn't feed my spirit. I could do the job, but it didn't necessarily make me feel like I had a sense of purpose at the end of the day.
So with the topic being healthcare equity, and you being obviously so tied into the patient because of what you've done for sales and marketing, on the commercial side. I'm curious how that resonated with you initially.
Honestly, I don't think the whole issue of health equity really hit me until I had my daughter. So I had my daughter in 1996.
Yeah.
And we identified during my second trimester there was something wrong with the heart. So she was born with a congenital heart defect, and from the time that she was born, she was being seen by physicians. And here's the where the health equity piece came in. I had the resources, and my husband and I had the resources to get her the best health care. But as my daughter got older, she was asking the question. She wanted to be a cardiologist because she was always with cardiologists. She asked the question. She said, "Mom," she says, "what if I weren't born in this family? And I was born in a family that didn't have the access to care," because she had all these major surgeries that were quite expensive. She said, "what would have happened to me?" And I thought that was very profound for a little girl to be able to ask those key questions. And that started this discussion in our household, because it was true that I wouldn't have loved her any less if we didn't necessarily have access to care, if we didn't live in cities with some of the best, hospitals, or have insurance. She still would have been my child.
Yep.
And that's how we became, not only just professionally, but personally engaged in this whole issue of access and making sure everyone who needs health care has the access to health care.
It's amazing that she noticed it. Did you ever read Outliers of Malcolm Gladwell?
I have not, no.
So he talks about this. He describes a family, and it's about, what was your daughter's age at the time? Maybe a 10 or 11? And they were letting him advocate for himself and talk to the pediatrician. And it was just such an odd twist. The mother said, no, he's going to tell you how he's feeling. He's going to ask his questions. And what it led to, and if I remember the story right, the kid became a physician later on in life, but because it just empowered him to no end. And you did that with your daughter. Instead of not explaining to her what's going on, you explained it to her in detail as an adult.
Absolutely. Yeah, and she was very aware.
Yeah.
Very aware, very engaged, because when you spend all of your life with physicians, you get very used to asking questions. You get very used to, she would have to go and get her blood drawn, every 2 weeks. And so she's actively engaged with the person drawing her blood. So what are you looking for? Why are you looking for it? What are the numbers today? What do they mean?
Really?
And so I even remember, I think she was in either the second or third grade, and it was Valentine's Day. And the teacher asked all the kids to draw hearts, and they were going to do little cards. She came home appalled, and she says, "Mom, this is not anatomically correct, because the heart has multiple chambers of the
Yes,
heart,
it does.
and I should not be." And I said, "I understand, Meredith, but for the purposes of this exercise, let's please use this heart," right? But she was very engaged, and so I was able to see the resilience and the perseverance of this small child.
Yep.
Who never gave up. I mean, she would go through surgeries. There was a surgery that was over 10 hours. She wakes up in ICU, and she's asking, "where are my books? Where is my homework?" Because she was so focused that she wanted to be a physician, and she didn't want to be left behind. And so for me, although the pain is still there, let me be very clear, it's always right
I'm
under the
sure.
surface. What gets me through is that level of resilience, how strong that little girl was. I can't give up. And that's what fuels this purpose in me. Yeah.
Well, look, you squeezed a lifetime of being a mom into a short period. It was quality over quantity for you. And you probably don't realize it, but she was emulating you. It was you that she saw. My daughter watches my wife like a hawk. And now that she's 19, she does the typical teenager thing where she thinks her mom's a pain in you know where. But my daughter is just as tough and as motivated and as committed as my wife is, and all without anything told by my wife that you should behave XYZ. It was just because she watched. And your daughter did the same thing with you. And it's amazing what an impact you have, because now you have this massive group that you're responsible for, hundreds of people, and they're all watching you too.
Thank you.
And they see you validated by this place of some of the smarter people that I know on the planet, saying that you're on the pedestal. It's really an amazing day for you. I hope that you take away from this just how much this matters to everyone here. Is this your first?
It's my first.
Oh.
That's my first. And I was telling Lisa Earnhardt, who's my boss, I said, Lisa,
Sure.
I don't know how this is my first. I think it's because I spent the first 15 and a half years of my career in other divisions outside of tech. So I moved to vascular in 2010.
Yeah.
And somehow when I made it here, I wasn't exposed to it. I had no idea. And so if I had known, I would have been a part of it. And I plan on becoming a part of this moving forward. This day has been magical.
Yeah.
And I want me and my team to continue to be a part of this. And I think not only is the focus on women, but for me, it's putting the patient at the center of every single thing that we do and making sure I continue to infuse that purpose within the organization.
Well, because as engaging and as entertaining and as loving and as fun as this is, it's also impactful, academic, and it's granular in the way that they approach the healthcare questions that they have. I mean, they don't run from the tough questions at all. They face them head on. I was writing a list just now of all the things they talked about, from diversity to fertility to miscarriages to things that are just hard to discuss. Face them without blinking.
That's right.
And I can assure you this place would be better with having you here, so I would love to see you next year.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. So happy for you.
Thank you. I appreciate
Welcome.
it. Thank you.
All right.